If you need to move a lot of people and their stuff over a long distance in comfort with easy access and four-wheel drive, you don't need an SUV because, well, they suck and they've got tiny boots. You need something like a people carrier, a minivan. What you need is a 2002 Toyota Estima Aeras T G Edition all-wheel drive 3-litre V6. The Estima was sold globally, but in non-Japanese markets it was known as the Previa. You've almost definitely seen one somewhere near you. But being an Estima, this is a JDM car, or Japanese domestic market. So what's it doing in the UK with its weird, different, better spec? Japanese tax rules mean that owning a car, even only a couple of years old, suddenly gets very expensive very fast. So there's a huge industry exporting fairly new cars to other right-hand drive countries, including the UK. More on this in another video. This is the second generation Estima. This generation ran from 2000 to 2006. Back in the 90s, the first generation was hugely popular with celebrity parents with big sliding doors, meaning they can get their kids in and out in London streets and other cities around the world, obviously. But it's a big vehicle. It's 4.8 metres or 4,770 millimetres long, and you really notice it when you're driving it. But that does mean it's got lots of room. Oh. You can get it as an 8-seater. This is only a 7-seater as it has 4 captain's chairs in the thing. This is proper luxury motoring. I'll talk about the interior of this thing for a few moments, because this really is where it's all going on. I'll take it on the road and give you more in a moment. But first of all, we've got to talk about this. You're sitting a little bit higher than in a regular car, but not much. So you have some of the advantage of an SUV or a 4-wheel drive, but without all of the extra height that might afford you. However, we are higher than in a regular saloon or sedan car, so we've got a little bit of an advantage over those guys. There are 3 trim levels on the Estima. There's the X, which is standard, the Aeras in the middle, and the G, which is the top of the range. This is a Aeras G edition. I couldn't actually find the specific spec of this car and where it fits in, but I'm going to have to assume that it's a mid-range Aeras with some G bits to make it kind of Aeras and a half. I don't know. Anyway, that does mean you have these rather lovely captain's chairs for all the passengers. Well, the first 4 anyway. The poor suffering guys in the back by the boot lid don't get this same level of comfort with folding armrests. Whoops. But they do get the nice lovely velour. There is velour everywhere. The door cards are velour, the seats are velour. There is this kind of plasticky pretend wood stuff, which, you know, is fairly convincing. You've got the steering wheel, the dashboard, the doors. There are 2 things that strike you because they are everywhere in this car. First of all, it's cubby holes. I mean, seriously, there are little bins, lockers, and the glove box is huge. Cup and bottle holders, you name it. There's stowage literally everywhere. You will not be shy of places to lose stuff in this car. And if you've got kids in the car, you will lose stuff. There'll be Lego everywhere. And secondly, little Japanese language stickers. Because this car came from Japan, everywhere you look, in every door shut and everything that opens and closes, there's a little Japanese language sticker that's either a warning or a label to say something's been done and serviced along the way. This head unit in particular is great because it's really quite an advanced thing for 17 years ago. As well as AM, FM radio, compact disc, it's got TV in it and various other things which I can't really tell you about because the buttons, although AM, FM is in English, the other buttons are in Japanese, so don't really know what they do, but I'm sure it's good. And I've got TV in here, although it doesn't actually work on UK networks. So I've almost got TV in here. Air conditioning goes without saying. It's kind of fun that in the same way that American cars have big chunky buttons everywhere, Japanese cars of this era also have virtually the same buttons across every manufacturer. Although you might not be able to tell what brand you're sitting in, you can definitely tell you're sat in a Japanese car just by looking at the electric window switches. The driving position, as I say, is very nice indeed. I'll talk more about that in a moment. As this is really a people carrier, let's go with the people sit. Now obviously, you will have noticed, this thing's got sliding doors, both sides as well, which makes it really good. So even though this is a right-hand drive, they didn't have to change anything for left-hand drive markets because you can pull up on the curb on either side of the road and bang, you've got safe exit for all the kids, passengers, whatever you want. Now, this car is available as an 8-seater, so you can have a bench across here, but this car, the Aeras G Edition, comes with 2 captain's chairs. These are reclinable for handy napping. Have velour armrests on both sides. This is very comfortable. They of course slide all the way forward to allow easy access for the third row passengers. Oops. And this is rather marvellous. I don't think anyone's ever actually used this. It has slide out footrests, which I'm sure I'm using wrong, and I will have endless comments explaining to me why I'm using them wrong, but the instructions are in Japanese and I don't read Japanese. I may be too tall for them, I'm not quite sure. Here in the back, as well as the comfy seats, big table and cup holders, you have a third cup holder here on the back of the cubby hole for the front seat passengers, and you have a power outlet, but it's a Japanese 2-prong domestic, so that's a 100 volt 100 watt twin pin. I don't have anything to test that with, but that's quite amazing. And the big sliding doors have the obvious ashtray, a big cup / bottle holder, and a big kind of book, paper, whatever, deep cubby hole thing. There is a warning about only putting sealed bottles and not open cups, because it will splosh. A beautiful language of international wordless description, splosh. In this twin rear seat configuration, you can fold down this walnut effect cup holder and table and have an easy walk-through passage to the back. Now here in the very back of the car, we have a 3-seat bench which slides back and forth, so you can increase your load space in the boot or passenger space in the back and compromise and mix and match until you get something that's broadly okay. Now weirdly, these seats don't actually fold as you would expect. This bench folds up like that, so you can have more space and you can tuck it tight against these chairs, and this seat back folds back like that, so with the headrests out you can have kind of a bed sort of thing. It's kind of awkward for loading big stuff, but I guess you could put a lot of big things in there. It's a little strange, I don't know. Here in the back though, we've got more cubbies and we've got more just make it comfortable kind of kit. Above both rows of seats, we've got aircon vents in the ceiling on the left and the right, and lights left and right for the rear seat passengers to read by. There's a cup holder each side, a little kind of storage bin in the side, and a larger storage bin behind it, and well, an ashtray on one side, and RCA style audio video connections, which may be, I don't know, I don't know if this feeds video to the radio perhaps, rather than headphone out. Possibly this is to feed, yeah, I think this is to feed video to the stereo head unit, rather than to actually listen to stuff from the head unit. But anyway, it's big, it's comfy, and it's versatile, and there's still more headroom here in the very back than in the front of some cars I've sat in. And the boot obviously is sizable. It's got a power outlet with Japanese writing saying it's 120 watts, a little light, a big cubby for warning triangle and first aid kit, that kind of stuff. Now I don't know how they reached these figures, but apparently with the seats up and back, it's got 515 litres of boot space, and with the seats down, so you've only got the 4 main seats in the front, 2,917 litres of space, which sounds like a lot to me, but I've no idea how you configure the seats to reach that figure. I'm not going to try. Oh, there's lash down points as well, so you can tie big luggage down. Yeah, it's a big boot. If you thought the styling was quirky around the front, nothing really changes around the back either. It's still, well, I'm going to call it unique, because they've taken the basic van shape and just chucked stuff at it. So you've got the side spoilers, you've got these metal pressings with sort of big creases and things, these lower skirts. So actually it looks almost like it's been lowered, even though it's actually riding quite high on the suspension. Japanese market lighting requirements aren't massively different, but it has had to have a fog light added into the back bumper to hit UK regulations. This is a Toyota 1MZ FE 3 litre quad cam 24 valve V6 engine, knocking out 220 horsepower and 216 foot-pounds of torque, ideal for lugging a big heavy thing full of passengers. And I say heavy, it's 1,800 kilos even on its own, 1,810 I think exactly, before you start putting people and stuff in it. Annoyingly, we didn't get this engine or drivetrain configuration in the UK, which is why you need to go for a JDM export model to get this kind of cool stuff. It feels kind of strange firing up a people carrier and hearing that kind of V6 growl in the background. You expect with a big kind of luxury car rather than, you know, a people mover. I'll whack the aircon down a bit because it's quite warm today. Hopefully you can't hear that. Now, there are two things. When you get into this car, it is very, very, we can use a dog word here, quirky. The controls, obviously they're just ordinary controls, however, it has got the weirdest gear shift I've seen in a while. It's not quite on the tree, it's not quite on the floor, it's on the dash. You push the button on top and then you slide it down through the gears, and there's an indicator light band panel on the dashboard which glows and changes in park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then to and low obviously, and that's when you're in gear. And then to remove the handbrake, you have a single push pedal where the clutch would be if it was a manual. So push to release it, and push it again to reapply it later on. And very strange, but seems to work. Hey. Obviously everything is heavily power assisted. It's a big heavy car, you wouldn't be able to move it otherwise. And the steering is therefore very light, very smooth, very easy. This thing's got a 4-speed automatic gearbox in it, which does shift imperceptibly, or very smoothly if you prefer. And it's got an overdrive as well, so it's 4-speed plus overdrive. To engage overdrive, you push the button on the side of the shift, and the way the instrumentation seems to prefer it is for its standard position to be on, because with the button depressed, there's nothing on the dashboard. But push the little button, it feels like it's engaged and the revs have fallen and we've lost a bit of torque, but a little light came up on the dashboard saying overdrive off. Now around the world, other markets got different engine and transmission configurations. Because this is based on the Camry platform, they can use pretty much any of the Toyota engines that will go into that car, which is pretty much any Toyota engine. So in Europe and the UK, the main engine was a 2-litre diesel. Australia got a 2.4-litre petrol, which I think may have been available in the UK as well. But they were all front-wheel drive. Only the Japanese home market got the all-wheel drive system fitted to this car, which is why you need to go and get a JDM for that. And this was only available with the automatic gearbox as well. It's quite a clever system. You can leave it on all the time and it'll self-sense if there's slippage under the wheels and engage four-wheel drive as it needs to. And as this car has got winter tyres on it as well, it's pretty much an unstoppable beast of a vehicle. Now, looking backwards is a bit tight. Looking forwards, the visibility is incredible. You can see everything. The big panoramic windscreen is just like looking out of a greenhouse or something. It's such a big vista view. And as you drive around in it more, you do feel more like you are quite high up, more than you did at first perhaps. But as well as the cool V6 and four-wheel drive auto setup, the lucky Japanese market buyers also had the option of a hybrid system as well, so you can have a half-electric version of this Series 2 car. Now, uphill on a dual carriageway, the pickup isn't a ball of fire, but it's not bad. But then this isn't designed to be a ball of fire. What would be the point of a car so fast it would make everyone in it feel sick when you've got a driver having fun and 7 people vomiting down the backs of the seat in front? Workers again. Oh man, there's no cameras pointing at that old Ford F1 pickup truck. In terms of pickup and performance, this is actually remarkably similar to that Vauxhall Omega I drove the other day. It even sounds quite like it as well. I guess V6s often do sound kind of similar. Do you know what? If I was in the market for a people carrier or something to convert into a motorhome, I think this might jump fairly high up the list. Typical Toyota build quality. This thing's got 85,000 miles on it at 17 years old, and it still feels really tight and really fresh. So we like about the styling, but the engineering is fantastic. The styling was done by a guy called Hiroshi Okamoto, and I don't know what else he designed. I'll put a little flash up on the screen of other cars I can find that he was behind. But it is distinctly Japanese. You really couldn't mistake it for any other nation's handiwork. It looks like something that's come out of a manga cartoon. And I do think that's actually really cool to have something as mundane as a people carrier and yet make it look just mad and exciting. So you're sitting behind a dashboard that looks a bit like one of the shuttles from Star Trek Next Generation, and the outside actually doesn't look that dissimilar either, to be perfectly honest. So I wonder if he was a fan of Star Trek TNG, because this really does look like it's straight off the set of that. The thing about having so many cubby holes all over this car, and it is a family car, is that stuff is rattling in all of them. The car isn't rattling, but there's just tons of stuff throughout it that you can hear kind of shaking and shimmering and knocking around inside it. So it's actually quite funny. Cars ruined by people. Now I don't know if it's because it's a Japanese thing or if it's a car designed to go to America and so they've done it for the Americans, but this car beeps a lot. You put the ignition key in and open the door, it beeps. You put it in reverse, it beeps. It just beeps and beeps and beeps. It's got a lot to say for itself, and I really don't like it when cars do that, but it is what it is. So my stringer bell moment for the day. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little brief delve into a JDM oddity. Okay, it's not the most odd of oddities, but it is JDM, and it is unusual in this country for its hidden specification. It's a bit of a Q car, a bit of a unicorn that's, you know, hides its light under its bushel and all that. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this, please hit like and subscribe. If you want to see more JDM stuff, tell me in the comments. We'll probably ignore that because I quite like it, so I'm going to do some anyway. But it'd be good to know that you enjoyed it as well. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Sorry, it's copyright, isn't it? And I didn't do a what's up! Damn. Whoopsie. Well, I've been out about an hour longer than I thought I'd be filming this car. There's lots of it. I thought I'd do like 10 minutes filming the interior. I was like an hour filming the interior. This is crazy. But the owner's probably thinking I've sold it and driven to Europe.